You're welcome to my channel. I want to deliver a lecture on creating an effective business strategy, a case study of Tesla. Business strategy is a very, very interesting topic, and it is the lifeline and the life wire of any organization. It's just a concept that you must get right as a business. If you do not get it right, then you're going to be in trouble. A lot of business, a lot of businesses are paid the supreme price for choosing the wrong strategy, not being aware of their internal environment or their external environment, and events overtook them. So we have so many big organizations, international organizations in yesteryears that are currently no more. Look at Kodak, for example, the worst leader in photography at the time, and today they are nowhere to be found. When I was a kid, I used to have a neighbor that is the dad was a librarian. So when I go to their house, I see all manner of big volume encyclopedia, okay, books that are very heavy to carry, so detailed, so voluminous. But today you can see the change from those high volume books. We now have Wikipedia, we now have WikiHow, we now have online resources. So things are changing. Now, from brick and well universities, we are now having online universities. We are having online study centers. Some years ago, maybe this lecture I'm delivering now, I've been delivering this session, in a classroom. But now we have online platforms that you can use to reach people from all over the world. We're talking about strategy. So it is very important for an organization to be able to choose the right strategy. And it's not just enough to choose the right strategy, you need to have the right implementation, course of action that you'll be able to use to turn your strategy into concrete evidence. And of course, you also need to watch the life cycle of the strategy, okay, because strategies do have life cycles. So there are some strategies that will work today, but tomorrow may not be able to work, perhaps because of for political reasons, or because of the regulatory environment, or because of the change in taste of the consumers. And of course, every business is there to meet the need of the consumer. So if the needs of the consumers are changing, then definitely your strategy must change with those needs. So I want to use this session to talk about business strategy and the things you need to know to create an effective strategy using Tesla as a model. Okay. There is a quote here that I want us to take note of on business strategy, which I think actually summarizes for us the concept of business strategy. Charles Addy, all right, Charles Addy said, "We are all prisoners of our past. It is hard to think of things except in the way we have always thought of them, but that solves no problems and seldom changes anything." That's Charles Andy's take, and it's very relevant to business strategy formulation, because a lot of time businesses choose or decide on business strategy uh, that is restricted to the confines of their boardrooms. You cannot stay in your boardroom and just determine the business strategy, because a lot of time your business strategy will be determined by even factors that may not be entirely within your control. I've talked about the change in business, in change in taste of the consumers. All right. What about regulatory changes? So sometimes you have to modify your ideas to the realities on the ground. I remember recently the founder of Ovation magazine in Nigeria. He wrote a message that was striking to me on strategy for startups. And he said it that if today you have an idea about a celebrity magazine and you want to start producing it in hard copy, he emphasizes the fact that in today's realities, it will be a hard sell. Even if you are so passionate, you are so convinced that it's going to sell, this is my vision, I want to have a magazine, a hard copy magazine. All right. It is because of the proliferations of e-platforms. So you now have a generation that is more comfortable with apps, more comfortable with smartphones. So instead of you carrying papers, physical magazine all around, you can just open an app and have an access to the information you want. Of course, what you're trying to sell in the magazine is information. All right. So you have young people now that are very much comfortable getting those information from a tablet. That is facing the reality of strategy. So if you want to, you have an idea for a magazine, you cannot, completely eliminate or shut your mind against using, electronic platforms to distribute that magazine. Okay, so that is realizing that strategy goes beyond you as an entrepreneur or as a business person, as an executive director, or as a non-executive director, as a chairman of the board of directors. We need to realize the fact that the business strategy that will work is not limited to our passion. It's not limited to our vision. We need to be able to consider so many other factors, technology factors, and so on, which we'll still look at for you to come up with a strategy that is going to be successful on the long run. So don't be constrained by the limitation of your own walls, your own constrictions, your own ideas, your own personal view of the world, of the market, to determine how your business strategy is going to be positioned. If not, you will come up with a very beautiful idea, beautiful to you, but at the end of the day, it will not sell. See, we've had so many cases of ideas, strategies that didn't work. Okay, in IT, name it, in virtually every field of life. I was reading a material recently that they were stating that between one third to two thirds of business strategies don't work, and in fact, many business strategies do not even see the light of day. Not to talk of even determining whether they are going to work or not. Okay, so in the course of this study, we want to look at corporate governance, we want to look at business strategy, we'll discuss barriers to successful strategy development, we'll look at business strategy formulation, we'll look at SWOT analysis, PES2 analysis, business strategy and risk assessment, business strategy case study of Tesla. Now, let's look at corporate governance. Corporate governance is the system by which a business is directed and controlled. Business strategy emanates from the corporate governance structure of an organization. Typically, you expect you're going to have a board of directors made up of the chairman, the executive directors, and the non-executive directors. Now, the setup of the board actually determines the success or failure of an organization. It is the board that is going to develop the business strategy while they hand over the business strategy to the executive management to run with. So that the executive management is the implementer of the business strategy. And they are also responsible for giving feedback to the board on the workability of the business strategy. Now, the setup of the board matters a lot. I was reading a report on Kodak that there was actually a technical person in among their employees that first caught that vision for digitization of the uh, photography process. And this information was made available to the leadership of Kodak, but unfortunately, they ignored it rather than embraced it. All right, until that idea came, was implemented from outside the organization, and it ran Kodak out of the business. One of the things I've noticed in negotiation is the fact that a lot of people see their suggestions as as tied to their person. So when their suggestion is rejected or not taken, then they take what is called a positional stance. So they want to defend that position. They want to stand by it. And if it was not taken at the end of the day, they feel dejected. And this happens a lot in many boardrooms. So you have business strategy sessions. Everybody is coming with their own idea. This is what we should do. This should be our business strategy. All right. And more or less, it is more or less, a personal idea. And in a good business setup, uh, like Eri Fayol said, the generality, the stake of the general population should be higher than the stake of an individual. Okay, so when there is a conflict of interest between personal goals and corporate goals, the corporate goals should should be the priority. So what kind of corporate governance system does the business have in place? Is it a corporate governance system where the corporate vision, the corporate goals, the corporate objectives are lifted above personal ideas or personal goals of the directors that made the decisions? So you need to have the right corporate governance components, constituents, the executive directors, the non-executive directors. What is their level of exposure? What do they know about business? What do they know about the industry? Okay, so being a board member goes beyond having stakes, financial stakes, investment stakes in that organization. So when you have somebody that's the financier of a business, all right, that does not even understand that industry, then there will be a problem. No, we said we're going to use Tesla as a case study. And I think that is one of the reasons why Tesla is really making they are making they are making a lot of advances in the area of renewable energy, because the CEO is also well grounded in that area. He has sound understanding of that industry. So you need the kind of executives that understand the industry, so that when an information, props up during the business strategy sessions, everybody will be able to understand the implication of that information. So they will be able to have, be able to see the end from the beginning. So you need people like that in your executives that that are sound when it comes to knowledge of the industry. Then you need a system that cannot be dominated just by an individual. Such that if that individual is wrong, you need to be able to have directors and other stakeholders that will be able to insist, so that the corporate goal will be supreme in that particular boardroom. So the corporate setup of the organization matters a lot in deciding the success or failure of the business strategy. Okay, so we'll look at business strategy definitions. According to Bruce D. Anderson, business strategy is a deliberate search for a plan of action that will develop a business competitive advantage and compound it. So the business strategy is a search, a deliberate, a conscious search. Okay, it's not something you just stumble upon. It has to be. It's a meticulous search for a plan that will help the business to find its competitive position and help the business to be able to exploit that competitive position maximally. According to Alfred Chandler, it is business strategy is the determination of the long-term goals and objective of an enterprise and the adoption of courses of action and the allocation of resources necessary for carrying out those goals. All right, so that is also linking the business strategy with the strategy implementation. So you need to be able to determine the long-term goals and objective of the organization, the courses of action you will use, then also to be able to allocate resources necessary to carry out the business strategy. Okay, then we also have the third definition that states that a strategy is simply a plan that describes what an organization proposes to do to achieve a stated mission. I like this definition also because it's mentioned the fact that you cannot have business strategy without having organizational vision and mission. So once you understand the vision and mission of the organization, we can now start, drawing a business strategy with a plan to achieve the mission and the vision of the organization. Let's look at barriers to successful strategy development. Information available determine the adequacy of business strategy. Okay. Around 1999, there was a product that was marketed in Nigeria called Pages. So Pages basically is a device that you can use to, is actually a messaging device. So you can text, to your friends, to your business colleagues and the rest. And it was so novel at that time, okay, because at that time there was no, we didn't have a telecommunication structure in Nigeria like we have today. So it was basically NITEL, and NITEL is for the few and privileged. Okay, so when that came, it looked as if it's going to take the market by storm. Unfortunately, for the sponsors of that product, GSM was, launched in Nigeria a short time after the launch of Pages, and definitely, the GSM already have a messaging app embedded in it. Not to talk of now that we have Telegram and other applications that you can use to send messages. So automatically, Pages disappeared from Nigerian markets. Perhaps if the sponsors of that pager device, they have had information about the fact that GSM is about to be launched in Nigeria, maybe they will not have bothered investing in that pager product, because automatically it was a complete failure. So for you to set a business strategy, a marketing strategy, a product strategy, you need to have the right kind of information. Okay. And another problem with information now is also you may have information overload. You may have information overload. So you are getting information from internal sources, from external sources, from your competitors. So from everywhere, and you may be confused, okay, with the information overload. And so that is tied to the processing power of the organization, which I will still talk about briefly. So structure is another barrier to successful strategy development, which I've mentioned when I was talking about corporate governance. So do you really have the right structure? Do you have a structure that can ask questions, that can challenge the chairman, that can challenge the CEO, that can challenge the directors? So when people bring suggestions on strategy and they want to go positional, do you have a system that can ensure that the corporate goals are not sacrificed under the altar, at the altar of personal goals and egos? So that structure is very, very important for the organization to put in place to identify strategies, to process strategies. So talking about processing power, I've talked about that a lot of information, thousands, maybe even millions of information will have to be processed before you can arrive at the right strategy. So do you have the processing power? Because some of these information, may get lost during the processing phase. So a lot of businesses now are now investing in technologies, business intelligence, data analytics, artificial intelligence. So hidden information that you would naturally not have been able to pick. Okay, so all these technological investments or technological tools can help you to highlight those areas of information, which will definitely improve the business strategy formulation process. All right, poor planning is another barrier to successful strategy development. So, of course, if you don't plan to succeed, then definitely you are planning to fail. So you can't just right strategy. A lot of businesses sometimes just they just develop business strategy for documentation sake. Oh, what do you have a strategy? Yes, we have a strategy. So just go to somebody's website and just copy and modify. That is not business strategy. Okay, so the business must know where it is going and how it is going to get there. So I want to talk about business strategy formulation. So business strategy formulation is about logic, it's about analysis, it's about creativity, it's about innovation, it's about new thoughts, new way of thinking. All right, thinking outside the box. Okay, thinking differently uh, from the way things have been done before. So for you to have the right strategy in this age and time, it means you need to be able to to derail from the normal. Okay, you need to have innovative thinking, and that means you need to have a lot of information at your fingertips, and you need to be able to process those information. So the strategy management process involve understanding the strategic objectives of the organization. So we need to know the vision of the organization. Where are we going? The mission of the organization. How are we going to get there? The values of the organization, the ethical principles that the organization is built on. Okay, we need to be able to do or perform SWOT analysis, which I will talk about, PES2 analysis, so that we'll be able to know, understand our internal environment, understand our external environment. Then from those, we can be able to formulate our strategy. Okay, then it is after formulating the strategy, we need to now implement the strategy, and this will involve training of our employees. They are allocating resources for implementation of the strategy. Now, one aspect of strategic management process that a lot of businesses often ignore, all right, is the strategic evaluation and control. So similar to the Deming cycle, the PDCA cycle, plan, do, check, act. So you have planned the strategy, you have do is for execution. Okay, execution of the strategy. So the evaluation is the C, the check. So you need to have a mechanism to be monitoring, to be checking, management review, all right, internal audit reports, independent consultants, feedback, and so on, to be able to know whether the strategy is working. Like I said, strategy is dynamic because you are not operating a strategy in isolation. You are operating a strategy in a dynamic environment. So if the environment is changing, you need to tune your strategy to align with the environmental changes. So once we are able to review the strategy and we discover that there are needs for modification, then that means we must tune the strategy to be able to ensure that the strategy is still current. Okay, so part of what we need to do in the strategy formulation process is we need to do SWOT analysis. So SWOT, the S is for the strength, the internal strength of the organization, the edge you have above the competitor. For example, you may be a monopoly. For example, you may be the first entrant in that industry, of which Tesla is having that edge in the electric motor uh, industry or sub-industry, depending on how you see it. Okay, so opportunities are external to the organization. So they are benefits that the organization can use its internal strengths to take advantage of. So, for example, the market may be huge. The market is there, so all you need to do is use your strengths. So, for example, maybe you have strong marketing teams. You have motivated marketing teams, and you have a market that is still developing. It's still a growing market, and the finance is there for the people. The resources is there for the people to pay. So you have people, like they say in economics, you have people that are willing and able to pay. That is an opportunity. So you use your strength to take advantage of the opportunities that the external environment is offering you. Then you have weaknesses. The W is for weaknesses. So these are weaknesses, vulnerabilities within your organization, all right, that could be exploited by threats outside the organization. So you need to understand those weaknesses so that if possible, you turn them to area of strength. All right. The weaknesses could be the technology you are using. Maybe the technology is obsolete. The another weakness may be maybe the quality of your employees. Okay, the quality, maybe the level of training, the level of motivation, okay, could be an inherent weakness within the organization. So threats are outside there. So the political terrain could be hostile, the regulatory environment could be hostile. What about the actions of the competition? So all those are threats to the organization. Maybe also changing customer tastes. Okay, that is also external and could also be a threat. So a good business strategy will look at all these four elements to be able to come up with a strategy that is going to be a success. You are also expected to do a PES2 analysis, look at the political environment. So the changes in governments, for example, can be positive, could be negative to the organization. So you need to shift to adapt to the political space. All right. You also need to look at the economic environment. Okay. Is there economic growth? Is the economy in recession? What are the employment rates figures? Okay. What is the monetary policy, fiscal policy, and so on? So inflation, interest rates, foreign exchange rate fluctuations. So all these could be adversarial and could be beneficial to the strategy. Then the social factor also. So income distribution. We'll see how Tesla was able to consider income distribution when they were coming up with their strategy. For example, electric motor cars being, a new niche, and the fact that the spare parts, they are not so common. So because they are not so common, law of demand and supply will play a role here. So they are going to be expensive. So any new entrants to the electric motor car field will definitely expect that the costs are going to be high. So you need to look at the income distribution in the country or in your market that you have segmented, for you to know whether you have enough people that will be able to afford your product. So it is going to be it's going to be a useless effort if you prepare, a high quality product that nobody will buy because they cannot afford it. So, income distribution is a key factor, and Tesla managed that very, very well. Okay, so you also look at the demographic dispersion. Okay, what is the age range in the organization in the country? Okay, so you want to look at, okay, people below 18, people between 18 and 30, people between 30 and 50, people between 50 and 70, and so on. What are their interests? How what is the interest that each of those age groups have in your product? So that could affect maybe your marketing strategy or your advertisement strategy. So you want to look at lifestyle factors also. Okay. Tesla their first uh, uh, versions of electric motors were luxury cars. Okay, so they have to appeal to a niche of people that have the money to pay. Okay, so they came up with that idea, looking at the social factor. Let's come up with luxury vehicles that people that already have the money can pay, so that we use the money they pay us to fund cars that the generality of the people can afford. Okay, so you also want to look at the technology factors. Okay, there are some ideas that come before their time. Okay, so is it because you want to be sure that the technology is matured enough? Okay, so for example, electric cars, I've talked about the spare parts. Okay, so we need to have the right technology to sustain it. So how do we charge the cars? All those issues need to be analyzed. So for example, if Tesla want to push to Africa, where there is still a lot of energy problems, you have to look at that. How do you import the renewable energy sustainability systems to Africa? So you have to consider that. So the technological factor is a key consideration when you are developing or formulating your business strategy. Then you have to look at your legal environment also. The legal environment is very, very important. Issues like taxations, taxation policies, employment laws, you have to look at them. Perhaps the area you want to even go you want to delve into could you may have a tax reliefs. Okay, there may be tax reliefs by government, provided by government, so that people are encouraged to go to that sector. For example, renewable energy is a regulatory concern, governmental concern worldwide, because of impact of on ozone layer, so ozone layer depletion, global warming. So any most governments all over the world want to support any business that is into renewable energy. So you will see things like grants, the tax reliefs, and so on, being given to such businesses in that field. So that could also be a motivation. All right. Then also environment. You need to look at the environmental factors, still linked to things like a global warming. And you see, Tesla also, is also maximizing that opportunity. People are getting more and more sympathetic to businesses that is helping the environment. Globally, there is more awareness about the need to preserve the earth for the next generation. So fossil fuel has been clearly identified as a key source of environmental pollution. So any business that is going to bring down the pollution quotient of the world is going to be well embraced. So you need to look at the environmental factors also. So you need to look at perhaps the CSR issues, okay, the community relations, where in fact even the physical environment of the organization where it is operating, you have to be conscious of that. So you don't want tension between your company and the immediate physical environment where you are operating. So all these factors must be considered when you are formulating your business strategy. Okay, then business strategy and risk assessments. One thing about business strategy that may be overlooked is the fact that you need to consider risk implications of those strategy. Um, uh, there was a sad incident that happened in Benin, in Nigeria, recently. There was a banking agent that was shot dead after being robbed. For years, banks in Nigeria have been trying to capture the unbanked into the banking net. And one way they've been able to do that successfully in recent time is having agency banking. So you have businesses now, entrepreneurs having POSs and the kiosks all over the urban, semi-urban, and rural areas in Nigeria. So you have places where there are even no banks. Now, all these entrepreneurs are there now with their mobile POSs, and they are, opening accounts, accepting deposits, and making withdrawals. So the banks now do not even need to have an ATM in an area to have transactions. That is the good news. But the bad news is the security of those people, and the unfortunate attack on that operator in Benin, Nigeria, has flagged that it shouldn't actually be on the field that they will be considering that. I think during the strategy development, somebody at the executive level should have pointed it out that these operators are going to be having high volume of cash, and because of that, they're going to be targets to armed robbers. So how can we help them? So I don't think Nigerian banks have considered that risk, and unfortunately, somebody's life has been lost because of that, and we might have more of that. Those kind of attacks might persist unless we come up with an idea on how to address that risk. So it's a very good idea to have those agency banking operations all over the nooks and corners of the country. But because of the inherent risk of carrying cash, we need to also have compensative controls to deal with that inherent risk. Okay, so let's look at Tesla in detail and see how Tesla has been able to formulate and implement its strategy. Tesla's vision statement is to create the most compelling car company of the 21st century by driving the world's transition to electric vehicles. So they have their vision. They want to be the most compelling car company. They realize that there will be other entrants, but they want to be the one that will be number one in the minds of the consumers. Okay. Then they have a mission statement. The initial mission statement was to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable transport. But like I said, you need to be reevaluating your strategy. At a point in time, they realize the fact that their mission, their objective, their corporate objectives have gone beyond transport. They now want to actually go fully into renewable energy. So they modified the mission statement in 2016 to Tesla's mission is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. They said, we hired the world's best and brightest people to help make this future a reality. Remember, I said the mission, the vision is where you are going. The mission statement is how you will get there. So clearly now, in their mission statement, they re-emphasize the fact that they want to transit from where it is now to sustainable energy, and they emphasize the fact that they are going to depend more on people. So even though they are going to need technology, they need people to drive those technologies. So the world's best thinkers, the world's brightest people, those are the people they are going to recruit to drive their vision. So this is a wonderful mission statement. Let's look at their strategy. The strategy of Tesla is to enter at the high end of the market, where customers are prepared to pay a premium and then drive that market as fast as possible to higher unit volume and lower prices with each successive model. So they know from the beginning, they've studied the market and they've studied the products. There's no way the product can come cheap. So target the rich, the wealthy first. get the money from the wealthy at a premium, sell at a premium, then the money you have gathered from the wealthy, use it now to provide cars for the general public. And that's a good strategy. So they have a master plan. Number one, create a low volume car, which will necessarily be expensive. So they know that there's no way around it. It has to be expensive since it is the first set. So in 2008, Tesla, they launched the Roadster, which was the first mass-produced electric car to use lithium-ion batteries and the first to travel more than 200 miles on a single charge. They were able to sell 2,450 of these sport cars at a base price of $109,000. So this is a lot of money, which they now use to produce Model Ls. So the first model was Roadster. Then the money from the Roadster was used to produce Model S. All right. So having gathered money from the sale of the Roadster and Model S, they can now move to the next level. So the Roadster was highly expensive. Then stage two, use that money to develop a medium volume car at a lower price. So they went lower. All right. So Tesla released the Model S, a second generation luxury vehicle, at a lower price point. So it's still expensive relatively. All right, but it was cheaper, all right, than the Roadster. Okay, so the new model became one of the top selling all electric vehicles in the world and won numerous awards, including Time Magazine Best 25 Inventions of the Year award in 2012 and Motor Trend Car of the Year in 2013. So gradually, you can see the strategy being executed. So they started with Roadster, sold at high price, then moved to Model S, came down lower with the price, even though it's still relatively expensive. Then they now moved to the third stage to create an affordable high volume car. So with the Model S and Roadster under his belt and the Model X behind it, Tesla is now working on the key piece of the strategy, a high volume car with a low price point, which is now meant for the masses, which will start at just $35,000 before government incentives. Remember when I was talking about the legal environment, I said that there may be incentives for businesses in a particular sector. So obviously the price might still be lower than the $35,000. So more than $200,000 pre-orders for the Model 3 flooded in sight unseen in the 24 hours before Musk, that is Elon Musk, even displayed the prototype in March 2016. There were roughly 400,000 total pre-orders as of May 2017. Look at that. That's success. They were able to read the market successfully, and the strategy they implemented was successful. So they knew that they have a segment of the population that is wealthy that can fund this dream, and they went for them. Stage one, they went for them. Stage two, and the money they've gathered from stage one and stage two, they are now using it to ensure that the electric car gets to every person that will be able to afford it. Okay, so having successfully rounded up the master plan one, Elon Musk came up with another master plan in 2016, which is phase two. So the phase two is going to comprise of integrating energy generation and storage. So if you are familiar with solar energy, you discover that one of the greatest challenge with solar energy is the storage, ability to store retain that power, that the solar panels are capturing from the sun. Okay, so Tesla is doing a lot of researches in this area, coming up now with solar houses, solar powered houses, and solar powered devices that have a solar storage. Okay, so they are working on that. So expand to cover the major forms of terrestrial transport. So instead of just focusing on the sport cars, so they're now looking at going to all manner of other transport, trucks, lorries, and the rest. So then implement self-driving technology, of course. This has already been launched. So you have cars now using artificial intelligence to self-drive. Then also to enable car sharing. So if you have bought a car, you're at work, your car can be working for you using the Uber model. Okay, so you can see the demonstration of a business strategy formulation in action. So this is what we are talking about. So Tesla is a very good example of how to formulate business strategy, how to uh, develop a product strategy, a marketing strategy, how to conduct a scan of your internal environment and your external environment. Okay, so thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe to my channel as I produce other videos that can help in educating and advancing your knowledge. Thank you so much.